I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is Mayor Springer. It's Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 6:59, and I call the council meeting to order. City Clerk Grove, would you take roll, please?
Councilman Skinner,
Here.
Councilman Nguyen,
Here.
Councilman Spargo,
Here.
Councilman Collette,
Here.
Councilman Ansich.
Present.
All present. Next, we're moving on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. At this time, we'll open the floor to public comments. A reminder, this is just for comments. Please state your name, where you live, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Please raise your hand if there's any public comments at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved. Committee reports. We'll start with the audit committee.
Oh, that must be me.
Councilman Skinner.
I have looked over myself the vouchers and have signed off on them as of today.
And then I think the other councilman was Councilman Collette.
Yep.
Anything you want to add to the audit report?
I came in and was the second signature on those vouchers.
Okay. Moving on to the finance committee. Mr. Antich, any reports?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to the parks committee. Mr. Nguyen.
Yeah, Councilman Spargo and I, we tried in earnest to get a meeting together in this past few weeks and we just could not get anything to line up, but we will have a meeting in short. If anybody is interested in joining the Parks Committee, I encourage you to reach out to myself or Councilman Spargo. So we're still considering folks who would like to participate. What we have today is a park reservation application and agreement draft. Is this the time you wanted me to review that?
Yes.
Yeah. And essentially, this is the same agreement that Aberdeen uses to rent covered spaces in their parks. And we've just modified it for our own city. So I don't know if the citizens have a copy of this yet. Probably not
That's
yet.
not in all of those yet.
Okay, thank you. If you're interested in looking at the agreement, you can look at the Aberdeen one. The only real difference is, I guess the main difference for citizens is our rental fee is lower, $50. Theirs is $100. We felt like that was kind of a lot to ask of our citizens, but the rental fees are to help our public works staff. You know, they have to do maintenance in those parks. They have to collect trash and take care of facilities. If anybody wants to rent any of the city equipment, such as additional trash cans or picnic tables, then they have to do setup and tear down of those. And so, as you all can probably appreciate, in a time when our public works staff is pretty stretched thin, we really need to be making sure that the revenue that they're earning is going back into their budget so that they can pay for the workers that we're using. There are some other details to consider there, but we will review this a little more closely. I don't know if any of the councilmen have questions or want to discuss right now, but we can certainly do that. This has been a conversation we've been having for several months, really. So, at least for me, it's not out of the blue, but I'm happy to address any questions from councilmen now.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern is the enforcement of said rules. Is Tom gonna go down and tell little Sarah to pack up her birthday party and go home?
So my understanding is only if there is an outstanding reservation. If there's a reservation, then yes, but otherwise it's first come, first served. If there's a reservation, there will be a signage posted saying that the space is reserved from this time to that time.
So that's just kind of saying, some want to do it, some don't want to do it. If you do want to spend the money, you have an opportunity, but then little Billy's family's going to show up, little Sarah's family's going to show up. They're both going to want a birthday at the park. This is just kind of setting people up for crushed hopes and dreams and making the city of Cosmopolis not really look appealing.
Well, I don't see it that way. I mean, I think this is an opportunity for, if you want to ensure that you have that space, then you have the opportunity to reserve it now. Right now, it's first come, first served. So if you were counting on that space, no amount of planning that you do will ensure that you have access to that space.
It's still, I feel like there's too many holes. I definitely feel like there's some revision that needs to happen, because you just can't ask one person to do it, the other's not. Because it's not really profitable for anyone if we're not keeping everyone to the same standard, for a first come, first serve, or a rent to have for the day type of thing. So definitely something that could be looked into more, or I feel it's gonna be very hectic and stressful for our city workers and for the city itself.
Perhaps, I'll just reiterate, this is what Aberdeen uses and it works for them. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work for us, but this is also not something that's gonna require, this is something we can just always edit whenever we come across something that's not working. It's not something that we have to make a big show of doing a vote or anything like that. The mayor could just, adopt this, but she wanted us to have an opportunity to discuss it, share it with the citizens, and, have an opportunity for input before we just roll it out.
And I'd like to add to this. So with Highland Park, before I became mayor and we adopted the park up there, what we did, we looked at what Aberdeen had, and prior to this, we worked on this for a couple of years. And so we purchased sawhorses. They were Rubbermaid sawhorses, put reserve signs on them, and like your realtor slots. Early in the morning, myself and my husband, because we were monitoring the park, and we didn't want people to think, oh, we're going to show up. And people plan, invite people, and then you have people showing up, and it doesn't work. So this ensured that when we would go over there early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, it's posted, then it's posted in advance. People know. The city hall started keeping last year a calendar of events. So what this would do with we would have those sawhorses with the signs on them. Well, the public works would go down in the morning. Just they'll hear at 8, run down. Our town is not huge. Put out the sign. It would be on the website, on the calendar, that people will be able to see and have access to all of our parks. Mr. Steedor made sure that all of our parks have their public addresses out. So it'll be a very organized system that everyone will be able to access and be able to plan accordingly.
I'd just like to add, the parks are public, they're paid for by the public. this seems to me like we would be creating more paperwork and labor than what we have right now is they're public parks. The public should be able to use them at their discretion, whether if you have three families at a park and one's paid and the other two haven't, you're gonna, well, we got a situation up at Highlands Park. Who's gonna go up there and say, well, you have to leave and you have to leave because they paid for the park for the day? Well, we didn't know they paid for the park. It sounds to me like we'd just be creating more.
Yeah, can I just clarify? So the application is for the covered spaces. It's not for the entire park. And, you know, a lot of this need is in response to hearing from our public works staff. You know, when somebody goes and throws a party in the covered spaces and they leave a mess, who has to clean that up? It's us. And, you know, this also exists to enforce a deposit. So there's a $50 deposit on this, which is refundable if, you know, people leave the covered spaces and the rest of the park in, you know, in good condition. But otherwise, we're paying additional, right? We're using public works staffing that we really don't have to clean up the park and maintain the parks. And we're not getting any additional funding for that additional labor.
So for the festival in the park at Mill Creek last year, there's still trash from last year's party in the park as of right now. The tables were never moved after they were readjusted. I personally had to put them back in the undercover area. So if this application process was ran last year for the festival in the park, then it wasn't held to standards.
It wasn't.
So once again, just to point out the flaws that this process already has.
Well, I mean, we don't have this process currently, is why we need it.
That's what we just said we did this last year for our events. She just said this was implemented last year.
They had an application process for Festival in the Park for vendors last year. That's what they had.
I
So it was
misunderstood.
for vendors, and I've been up to the park. I go around to our parks frequently, drive around to see what condition they are in. And it said Highland Park was a very good model of it working, and it really will help our public work because Tom has said, or Jamin has said, you know, people in the parks, they didn't pick up garbage. It was a mess. So it adds to their duties. And when people, I think the majority of people that have called have said, you know, we are more than happy. We appreciate having nice parks and we're investing in our parks. And so the process that has been in place through volunteers and maintenance at Highland has been successful. And would like to see that program move forward as we continue to work on all of our parks in this community. The park up on, I can't think of the name, but the one across from the cemetery, Terrace Heights, that is all being done by volunteers. That'll be no cost to the city, all the work, the asphalting, the pickleball, the equipment. And so all the work that the volunteers have put in and will continue more in that park, maintaining that park, it will be a small thing for, we have a lot of people from not just Cosmopolis, but Aberdeen that comes to our parks and rent our park and use our parks. So this will really ensure that our parks are maintained and give a little bit back to our public works.
Yeah, I just want to urge, we really can't afford to not do this. We can definitely discuss the details of it and, you know, kind of finesse it, fine tune it, and definitely make it so that it addresses concerns that citizens have. But yeah, I can't see how it's sensible for us to not have a rental agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Any more?
If I may, I believe Tom was wanting to say something.
I don't have a problem with the agreement type of thing, but I know one thing that Public Works won't be going down there if there is a conflict. It'll be our police chief or the officer going there, and Public Works is not gonna get in the middle of that situation.
And I don't really see that happening, Tom.
Yeah, and then the Olympic Terrace Park, I guess is the one you're talking about now. They had a way to get rid of the concrete. They don't have a way to get rid of the concrete now. I'm loading the concrete to a friend of mine who's gonna haul it away and dispose of it, but we're gonna have to load it out now.
So I had a conversation with Kim, so if you'd had that conversation with me, that's not gonna happen because you cannot be doing that,
Okay.
okay? Okay, moving on. Any other questions or comments? Not,
Was it, were we entertaining a motion on accepting?
no, I think Jeremy just wanted to bring it to the council tonight and look at that and.
Yeah, this is not something that requires a council vote for approval. This is just really a matter of the city staff administration. They can, they can do these kinds of things if they want to, it's to their discretion. But just in the interest of transparency, making sure that citizens have a chance to learn about it, making sure fellow councilmen have a chance to learn about it, I believe to be sure that it was brought to your attention.
We can ask the attorney. Okay, so moving on, public safety.
Public safety, we have, like everybody else, have been in scheduling conflicts on a constant basis, and we have not been able to hold a actual public safety meeting, working with the chiefs to make that happen as soon as possible.
Okay, moving on to public works.
No meeting.
Okay, city officials, we'll start with Chief Lehman.
Good evening, council. I submitted my risk report. Only thing I've added to it was just kind of an expansion on my risk report. I was just encouragement that we hear rumors of things such as peaking toms or things like that in the neighborhood. I'm encouraging you to not only reach out to me, but encourage the people that are talking about it or claiming that they're victims of it to report it. I did a very thorough research of all calls for service. And as my written report states, there was only one report which was really investigated. This was one of the ones where Aberdeen was on scene with multiple officers in a minute, and it was not necessarily as reported. Then digging in the rumor mill, lots of phone calls to my office a week or so later, wanting to know how concerned they needed to be, etc., saying that there was multiple reports of this and kind of rude. So again, just encourage people, if they do see something that's out of place, there's the non-emergency number, 53765, or 911 if it's an in-progress emergency. Don't wait to find somebody, don't leave a voicemail for my inbox for when I'm back for my 2 days a week, but call it in if there's something suspicious. And if you could encourage that anytime somebody comes to you, I'd be grateful. To come in often to stack voicemails for stuff that should have been reported. Even though it says don't make a report to anyone. So if you could further that, that would be great.
And Chief, we have a guest from Aberdeen tonight.
We do. This is Commander Steve Timmons from the Aberdeen Police Department. Is available if anybody has questions on this evening.
Commander, I'd just like to thank you for the report, for the call that you address. I appreciate it. So. Okay, moving on, Chief Valley.
Thank you, Mayor. Been a busy month, especially in the training department. We get graduated by firefighters from the Regional Training Academy, which was huge for us. It was great to have that one. Out there, their hazardous materials awareness, hazardous materials operations, and their firefighter one certification. A couple of them, plus some others who didn't go through the academy, continued on to get their wildland firefighter credentials. So we had 6 go through that academy this year, in addition to the fire academy. And then at the end of last month, we had 5 attend an advanced first aid course that's a set. It's set that they're putting below and into training to meet some state requirements. Right now, we're in the middle of our quarterly volunteer recruitment. And stuff in the process of onboarding. They're all at various states right now. And with that, separate, but with that, we're working on initiating the resident program. Bringing that on next month. Last, I guess, 2 weeks ago now, I was notified by Washington State Department of Natural Resources that $10,000 grant for firefighting. So we're working on the final steps right now, getting that grant agreement from DNR so we can start ordering some wildland PPE. Chief Lane and Mayor Springer and I have been keeping a close eye on the fire hazards that are approaching the 4th of July. All three of us are pretty much in agreement with the county and the other cities that we're not in any serious danger right now with the 4th of July. Unless something drastically changes with forecast, it looks like it should be status quo for the 4th of July, no additional burn restrictions, anything like that. I did want to remind everybody that when we see the county initiate a burn restriction, that does not mean a burn ban for the city. So Mayor Springer and myself have to agree on a burn ban for the city. The county has looser restrictions for burning in the city. So when they initiate a burn restriction, that raises them to the same restriction level that we always have by ordinance. And then they can escalate to a burn ban as can the city, which they go back down, they'll go back to restriction before we go to no burn ban. So just, I know there's always questions every year when the county puts in a burn restriction, what does that mean for the city? It means nothing for the city, it just brings the county to the same level that the city. And then I wanted to thank you to Cosmopolis Elementary School for inviting me. We had 5 or 6 guys attend their field day, then it's your field day. We had one of our volunteers who's actually probably alum in the dump tank. Thank you.
Mr. Cedar.
Ms. Mayor and the council, we have an issue in the city and since the beginning of time. How far back you want to go? The city has always had a board of adjustment. Board of adjustment is responsible for hearing variances to the city codes. Unfortunately, everybody that is on the board of adjustment, their terms expired back in 2022. I think at that time there was talk about possibly going to a hearings examiner, but that never came to fruition. Hearings examiners are very expensive and they don't live around here, so they don't have all the knowledge that people in the city would have. The issue that we have is the Board of Adjustment consists of 5 members. Unfortunately, there are only 2 members on the board right now, or, well, there's none on the board until they get reappointed. And the mayor put out a request for volunteers to be able to appoint someone to the Board of Adjustment and bring it back up to the 5 members. That nothing has happened with that. There's been no volunteers that have come forward. There was also talk about the possibility of joining the Board of Adjustment with the Planning Commission. Well, unfortunately, there's an RCW in the state of Washington that says that no member of the Board of Adjustment can also be on the Planning Commission or the legislative body, which are you people. So we have 2 ways we can go. One is we disband the Board of Adjustment and bring forth an ordinance to do that, but also bring forth an ordinance to either bring in a hearings examiner or have the city council, the legislative body, be the Board of Adjustment. The disadvantage, like I said, with the hearings examiner is they're very expensive. The advantage with having you as the legislative lead, I will know exactly when I can plan for a variance hearing and the time frame that I need, because we have city council meetings once a month, and I know exactly when they're at, so that I can move forward and say, okay, we'll have a hearing on this date. My recommendation is that you would ask that the city attorney bring forth an ordinance disbanding the Board of Adjustment
and bringing forth an ordinance appointing the city council, the legislative body, as the hearings for the variances. I was hoping to get some opinion by the city attorney, but I don't think he's here. Is he
He's
here?
actually,
Okay.
Casey, would you?
He has unmuted himself so he can.
I can hear, can you hear me?
So,
Hopefully.
Can you hear me there, Mayor?
And then also, we are cheap.
we keep the same price tag on the fees for the variance hearings as is right now.
Can you hear us,
Can you
Chris?
hear me, Mayor?
Now we can. Go ahead.
And Chris
Okay,
has been sick, so his voice is a little off.
sorry. Yeah, so the issue with the hearings examiner versus Board of Adjustment versus the council is it's a complicated issue. If you anybody goes to Napa Vine, they just went through this. And the reason I know that is because I did some hearings examiner work for them. So there's a statute that allows for a city to have a hearings examiner that can either make a final decision that's then appealed to the Superior Court, or a hearings examiner that makes a recommendation to the council, or you cannot have the hearings examiner process. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Obviously, a disadvantage of the hearings examiner process is it might take more time, however, and it costs money. But the one thing I've seen in various cities is while it's more efficient to run it through the council, I'm going to be honest with you, there are a lot of times councils, in my opinion, make decisions based on variances that probably are questionably legal, if not problematic from a long-term planning perspective. Now, I don't make those decisions. It's up to the council to make those decisions. So what a hearings examiner does is it brings in a perception of neutrality or whatever. But I've had cities go back and forth where, you get a particular council and, well, hey, they want to be the ones making the decisions. But then you get another council and you have people saying, well, wait a second, the people on the council are making decisions because their buddy's a developer. So we want a hearings examiner. There's a lot of issues with this, and I'll do whichever way this is the first I've heard of that in terms of the decision to get rid of the Board of Adjustment. My suggestion is the council might want to do some sort of at least a committee to discuss this in some more detail, because there are, and you can look at other cities. Napa Vine just went through it. Montesano's gone through it. Almost every other small city's gone through this, and in fact flipped back and forth. Napa Vine just did it. So if you guys know anybody in Napa Vine, you can talk to them about kind of their thoughts, because they just did it both ways. So that's just my input on that.
Could we get some insight on to how often we get requests for variance? And is there a backlog?
Well, right now I have 2 variance requests and 4 vacations. The vacations will come to you guys anyway. The last time I think we had a Board of Adjustment was a couple of years ago. They're far and few between. Most of the time, their requests center around height of fences, things like that. They're not big, major issues. They want to add on to their house, need to go closer to the property line because of the size of the lot. They want to enclose their front porch, which brings into the front yard setback. So those are basically some of the things that we've had in the past. So they're not real big, major issues. If you're talking about a development or something, that generally would go to the planning commission. And their planning commission could set conditions as far as what's going to happen. There are guidelines in the city ordinances that outline what is required to develop a larger area.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts from the council?
I guess my question is, how expensive is a the third party? We only have,
Based on my experience in Aberdeen, a hearings examiner is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,200.
Is that
Grace
kind of
Harbor
contract
County, I don't know what the fee is that Grace Harbor County charges, but it's close to $1,000.
is that per hearing? Is that per year? Or
That's to bring the hearings examiner down for that one hearing. Now, if you can get multiple people paying for that, it reduces the price down. But if you've only got one, they're gonna pay the $1,200, which, you know.
so currently that fee falls to the person who's petitioning for the request?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. The reason why we can go this direction, and like Chris was saying, the small cities do it is because Cosmopolis is a code city, which is less than 2,500 population. Aberdeen, because it's a first-class city, has two options. They either go with the hearings examiner if it's a big major thing, or if it's a minor variance hearing like I just brought to you, staff does that, looks at it, says, okay, don't have any issues. They send the notices out. If they don't get any responses, any negative feedback or anything, then it goes through. If they do get negative feedback that is really, I don't know, if you call it major, then it would go to the hearings examiner.
I have a question for Chris. What would be your thoughts on having a process like that where we have sort of an opportunity to pursue either a hearings examiner or to approve it through council if, if it's a kind of a minor issue?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the land. I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, the one, like vacations of roads and things like that, those are typically, I think in Montesano, for example, those just go through the council and there has to be a petition or whatever it is. The one in Napavine I dealt with was a development. It was some townhomes that were going in, and the developer was trying to avoid basically curb and gutter and lights and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of a bigger deal, but I'd want to talk to Public Works about that, but I'd have to look at the statutes and agreed. You can, bigger issues could be handled by a more due process, I guess, so to speak. And then lesser issues could be handled more in-house. So
Is there a simple enough way for us to kind of inscribe that in law? How we would define what's a bigger issue, smaller issue?
I'd have to, I'd want to work with Public Works, and we could put that, absent something prohibiting us from doing that, we could put that in our ordinances, but yeah, it could be done.
I guess my question is, in the meantime, you've got two people that are waiting on variances. What can the city do to get those people up and running?
We have to bring forth an ordinance to do that. So they understand that we're having issues and that it's already been a couple of months. So.
Well, if I understand from what the city attorney was saying, he has done that service as well for the city of Napa. Could he not also do that service for us? Would it still be the same cost as what you were relaying about hearings?
Because he's the city's attorney, I don't know if he could be the
I think
hearings
he would.
examiner.
Yeah, I wouldn't be I appreciate the offer of the work, but I would not be the hearings examiner for the city of Napa or for the city of Cosmopolis.
Is it an easy, tell me what these variances are? Is it something that we could, is it somebody wanting a 6-foot fence where they need a 4-foot? Is it one of the big issues of development or not?
No, one of them is subdividing a lot into two, your neighborhood. And the other one is changing, basically, the city's ordinance says that in order to put a modular home in or a manufactured home, it's got to be a double wide. Well, they even the cost of bringing something like that in now is getting expensive. So they want to bring single wide. So
If you could drive on the road, it's showing my safety. And if you can see something you want away, that's awesome. I want that too, but you know, safety for families and kids seems like a bare minimum.
So Chris, any recommendations then at this time, or Bill, what would you like to see?
Oh, I would defer to Bill and the council, just to, tell me what to do. I can't tell you what to do. I'm just giving you the options, and it can be a big decision. So obviously I defer to the staff of the city to give their best opinion to the council, and then the council will direct me what to do.
Yeah, like I said, my recommendation is that we bring forth the ordinance to dissolve the Board of Adjustment and bring another ordinance forward. Appointing, we could do, where the council hears minor and then have the hearings examiner do more major issues.
Do we need a motion to do that,
Yes, we do.
just to draft the
So
language?
is there a motion to
You
do?
don't need a motion just to authorize me to do it. I can work on it.
I guess one other question I had is, where have we been advertising or asking for members of the board?
So that was everything that, anyone that we hire in this city, we put out in the paper, we put out on social media, we put on our website, and they are posted at the post office and city hall. We've been very thorough in posting all positions and all vacancies on boards.
And I can attest to that because I did see it.
Thank you. Okay, so we will move forward with that.
I have one more question for the building inspector. Do you,
For what you're hearing in the beginning.
between First, Second Street and on East Street, between the Hong Kong and that's next to it, can you remember, was that alley vacated? The alley between the Hong Kong and the residents on the east side of the street or south side of the street?
I don't believe it's vacated. The only areas that I'm aware of that are vacated are up on Ocean Avenue. There are 10-foot right-of-ways that down certain streets, H and G, 10 feet of the properties have been vacated and given to the property owners.
As a former employee of the garbage service and the harbor, we made a contract years ago to quit taking garbage out of the alleys because the access was so tight in the Cosmopolis alleys. They were designed years ago, 75 years ago or whatever. Well, right now, it's gonna be hard for public safety to service an alley if it's been turned into a yard. And they have to right now go through the parking lot, and I guess we're having issues with the gentleman. It's been made an agreement or somehow that the Hong Kong would paint new lines on their parking lot because cars in there block access to his garage. And I just don't understand how we ended up having that alley turned into a yard.
I don't believe that alley has been turned into a yard. The house that's there, the problem that you have throughout the years is when the cities were developed, they didn't really pay attention to property lines, or setbacks or anything. So houses were built across property lines, too close to property lines. The issue in Cosmopolis is the alleys are only a 10-foot right-of-way versus in Aberdeen, the majority of them in the center of town are 20 feet. So, those are a lot easier, but yeah, it makes 10-foot alleyways, the radius for turning into for a large vehicle is not very good.
Well, if you take time, you can look at either end of that alley and see that our pole is on one side of the alley and the gentleman's fence is on the other. And between the pole and the fence is grass.
And I believe his fence is right on the property line. So that pole, it's hard to say where that pole is, but
I'm just concerned that was another one of our handshake deals that went on in the past.
no, I look at those, and I don't do handshake deals.
No, not, no, I worked with you long enough to I understand.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for tonight? Okay. So next, Public Works. Tom, do you have anything to report?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. So Mayor's report. So I really want to thank our citizens for your patience, your grace through the last 2 months of construction, power outages, file transfers. It's been exciting. If you've been in City Hall, you can see we had a hole cut in the wall. Pastor Kai was in City Hall when we had a gentleman come through the roof as we were working on billing, and everything went very well, but he caught himself. And then the last, we had the tower outages, and then the last little episode, we had a power outage as we were running the bills, and everything has been great. We are very grateful to them. And I'm like, are we good? Are we good to go? And they said, yes. And the very next day, the power went off, it came on, we were running, and the very next day, we had a very gracious citizen come in and say, I'd really like to pay this, but I know I owe more. And she said, I saw there was no consumption now. And so, I have to say, probably 95% of the citizens have been very gracious, understanding, and we want to say thank you. And I really want to thank Aberdeen. We could not have done what we've been able to do, keeping the doors open every day, and working and learning the processes without Aberdeen. And so, again, thanking the citizens. We have some online and some here. Thank you. Thank you very much. The other report is the bond was transferred to the local investment pool, so we were excited about that. It was kind of a process, lots of signing off, lots of paperwork, names, things. You just don't transfer money without going through the processes. And my staff knows I'm all about processes and double checking everything, so I appreciate them. I'm sure they'll like, really. So, and then the other thing, we had a contract for our landscapers that we were paying $2,700 a month. All of you have seen Second Street. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. I am thoroughly disgusted. Back a month ago, they did get their check. But when I looked at what they did in the hours, I picked up the phone and said, you were paid for probably 2 hours of work, and this isn't going to happen again. And that you need to make good on this contract. And, if you're not able to, I have a call to our attorney, and we're going to be terminating your contract. And they said, oh no, we don't want to lose you. We had this crew that we're very unhappy with. Well, they sent a new crew out, and from First Street down to probably the block before the mini mart there, they did a pretty good job, and that was it. They were up at the cemetery, and a lot of you probably see, I drive around town through the parks, probably through our city, probably about 3 times a week, checking things. Went up after they mowed the cemetery, there was grass on the headstones, not acceptable. Tom told me he had a service up there. They were very unhappy. And so we had another conversation. And so they're supposed to have been here 3 times, and they haven't shown. So we are terminating that contract. The guys, Public Works, need help. That can be paid for out of our perpetual fund. So I asked Councilman Spargo, he's looking at a couple companies. I have one in mind. We're going to get some bids. So we can make sure that the cemetery, they have some help with that cemetery this year with the perpetual. Are we going to be spending other money right now on the landscape? We're not at this time. So we have lots of volunteers. If you're interested in helping out, we have a form for volunteers. Please do not volunteer until you come in fill out the paperwork. We have to track your hour through L&I. We've checked the whole process. But yeah, you know, my husband and I are going to adopt a block. If you wanted to adopt a block, or maybe we'll do a work ready. Public Works they are going to have to work on some of the beds in between everything else that they're doing. But I think together, collectively, we can get this figured out and move forward and get Kazi looking the way it needs to be looking. So it was unfortunate. It was very frustrating to think that, you know, we paid them $2,700 1 month and they did a few hours work. And my last conversation was, well, we only do a couple hours work and you get 3 people. And I said, I have your contract in front of me, and that is not the case. And so moving forward, if you know people that like the garden and would like to do that, I think we will work closely with Public Work and we'll get things in shape. Let's see what else for the next report. I think that might be it for, so the municipal building, I want to let you know, we're up to date where we need to be with it. The roofing started today. The drive-through window was removed on 6/19. We had hoped to have the building open, but with rain coming in, people falling through the roof, knowing they're cutting that window up, we thought we're not going to be here. So we did close City Hall on 6/19. You know, we've managed to keep it open. Please tell your neighbors, when they see that yellow tape out there, they think we're closed. We're not closed. We are there. So just pass that word along. And so we are on track with that. If closure looks like they need to happen, we're going to get the information to you in advance. We're working with the project planner, trying to make sure that we have notice when we have to do it. So again, it'll be at the post office, it'll be on City Hall, it'll be on the Facebook, it will be Cosmopolis site. So, you know, it'll be out there. If you see it, pass it along to other people. So we are on track to have that completed. They said probably early January of 2025. Next, good news. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry, I had one more report about the Chehalis Flood Authority.
Oh, thank you.
Do
Please,
that.
Councilman Skinner.
As probably most everybody knows, Frank Chestnut, former mayor, has picked up the role as the Flood Authority delegate for a year, and I'm shadowing him and hope to take over when he decides to retire, which I would hope would be like 10 years from now, but we'll see how that works. Anyway, we have monthly meetings with the authority. The last meeting that we had was about local projects. And of course, Cosmopolis had projects for the Mill Creek flood issues that we had. It's been put on hold at this point in time, but we did have to move forward with the others. And Frank handed me a report, and this is from Frank Chestnut. I am unable to attend tonight's meeting due to a prior commitment to review the flood authority activity to date as it relates directly to Cosmopolis is a brief exercise. At the previous meetings, the authority spent a fair amount of time reviewing proposed local projects for the 25 through 27 fiscal years. Of the 15 proposed projects, all but 4 are located in Aberdeen and Hoquiam, and they deal with pump stations in both cities. 2 of the projects are in Montesano and the other 2 are in Lewis County. Nothing has been submitted for consideration for the city of Cosmopolis for this fiscal period. The local project committee, to which I have been appointed, will meet again in mid-July to begin prioritizing these submissions. I will report back to the council and the mayor when the list has been fully prioritized for funding by the authority. I would like again to thank the council and the mayor for the opportunity to represent the city on the flood authority and wish you well during your deliberations this evening. Respectfully, Frank Chestnut.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Skinner. The other part of the report is regarding Mill Creek. We did, about a year and a half ago, we applied for a grant, a RCO grant for Mill Creek. It was a preservation grant. And so what that means is that we can't go in and put new things in. We are going to go in and take care of issues within the park. We got $100,000. This grant, I worked on this grant with Darren and Jeff. I just finished the archaeological study piece of it. We had all of that taken care of. So as of July, we're getting $100,000. The problem is when they wrote this grant, they planned on Public Works doing all of the work. I don't see this as realistic. I'll be honest with you. I think they have a lot going on. So my goal is I dig and try to find money or get bids. Well, we can work within $100,000 to meet the requirements for this grant. They will be doing part of the project. That's part of the language in that grant. The things that will be taking place up there will be a new metal roof on the gazebo. The fence will be repaired. Public Work will be repairing any of the chain link fence up there. The tennis courts will be resurfaced and new nets installed there. There will be some solar lighting put up there, replacing some of the lighting that has been vandalized. There will be new concrete steps. I'm hoping to get that contracted out. The restrooms renovation, that will be done by Public Works, and trail maintenance will be done by Public Works. And we had a meeting, we tried to meet with Public Works once a week to kind of see where they're at and what is going on. And we'll be sitting down and working with a contractor first that is starting on our tennis courts. So again, volunteers, if you want to help in that park, you can't do any of these projects, but there's certainly a lot of other things up there. We had that on Earth Day. We had a group of volunteers that went up and, we spent a lot of time. It was a nice group, like 30, 40 citizens that went up there and weeded and mowed and pulled things. So I'm really looking for parks, adopting parks. There'll be more to come on that. So on to new business. I'd like to introduce Carrie Barr. She is our interim city clerk treasurer. And I'm going to ask Carrie to introduce herself and give a little history about herself. We had interviewed 4 candidates, and it was really important to get someone for the city who really had the experience and education needed for this position. And about the time I was ready to go up, we had another applicant. And so, Carrie?
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. I'm really happy to be here. I'm a born Washingtonian, so I've lived in Washington State all of my life. I've come out to Grays Harbor since probably longer than I want to admit to, but the mid-70s. I've been coming out here as a kid, either to Ocean Shores, definitely driving through the area, up to Claylock. It's I think one of my favorite places on earth. I think it's so beautiful out here. So I'm really happy to be in the city, helping you guys through the situation that we're in right now, which is getting better every day. I'm happy to say. My background a little bit, I graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in business administration and accounting. Right after that, I went to work for a lot of companies, some really big ones, which you've heard of, like Nintendo. I've also worked for a very large chemical distributing company, the largest one in North America and the second largest one in the world. So I always say, if you touched it, we touched it first. Every chemical in the world known. My real passion is in cost accounting. So I love to dig things apart and look for variances and try and find out why things didn't work out the way we planned. Also budget and budget systems. In my last position, I was responsible for all worldwide budgets and budgeting systems. So we're talking a $12 billion company in doing that. So lots of locations, lots of companies within those locations, and lots of general ledger accounts to have to memorize. I'm well versed.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
Sorry about that.
I'm really well versed in GAAP accounting and FASB, of course. GASB principles, I'm well versed in as well. So I'm really looking forward to working here in the city, putting some good systems and processes in place that are reportable and repeatable. I like those words. Things that we can tick and tie easily together. And we are getting there. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So as I said, we hired her at the interim. When I spoke to our attorney, he said, well, maybe you could hire her. And I said, I want to hire her at the interim. All the councilmen except one has been in to meet her and talk to her about her, her experience, and I appreciate that. Tonight, I'm just asking the council to make a motion to confirm her this evening.
So moved.
Is that
Who's second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any discussion?
I think that I'm the councilman who never came in.
Is there any other discussion? So all those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed? Hearing none, we're moving forward. So talking about posting and jobs, one of the things that we did is that we did post for all of our boards, and we posted for civil service board members, and we had 2 applicants, Mike Brown and Judy Stiles. We did accept them. They could not be here this evening, so I appreciate them. Everybody that applied did provide a letter of interest, their background, and why they wanted the position. So we do have 2 members, Mike Brown and Judy Stiles, who I'd like a confirmation to be joining the Civil Service Board members. Is there a motion to confirm?
Do we have to, a discussion as follows?
So moved. I make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor, could you provide some insight into the role of the Civil Service Board and selection of these 2 individuals?
So as my understanding, I spoke with Tony, I'm trying to think of Tony's last name. Basically, when we're hiring people, police or any municipal kind of thing, they come together and they oversee that, it's my understanding. I'm still learning about that. So as I said, I can appoint them, but wanting to work with the council, I just want to bring it all to you.
Can anyone else provide any more insight into the role of the Civil Service Board?
Thank you, Chief.
Our municipal code requires civil service board for any movement within hired positions and service protected positions, such as the police department. So those are the ones that authorize for things to be listed, posted, they approve exams, all of those things for the process for the police department.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion?
One more. Commissioner from
No question, you need to have a civil service secretary, chief examiner,
Thank you.
which is a really good,
Thank you.
it can take care of it all.
Okay, Councilman, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, we are confirming Mike Brown and Judy Stiles. Okay, moving on. Okay. Let's see. Next, we're moving on to confirmation. Again, as a mayor, I can appoint these individuals, but my goal is to really have the council involved in all decision-making. And so moving forward, we have confirmation of the Civil Service Board. Not Civil Service Board. And I'd like to introduce you to John Mendoza, who wrote a very nice letter of interest. Oh, the Planning Commission. Thank you. I have to make one mistake at evenings. So, John, would you like to stand up and introduce?
Sure. Hi, John Mendoza. I'm a lifelong Harborite.
No, born and raised in Aberdeen. I've lived in Hoquiam, Ocean Shores. Ocean Shores, I've done some volunteer work there with the fire department, and youth activities across the whole North Beach area. Been living here in Cosby the last 10 years, working in Tumwater. I haven't been doing any volunteer work because all my time has been taken up working. So, my job ended in Tumwater last June, 2023. So now I have some time on my hands. So I thought I would get back into some kind of volunteer work besides my sharpening. I got a little sharpening business. You guys need your knife sharpened. So yeah, I'm looking forward, put in the hard work if needed and maybe have a little fun in the meantime. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to accept John Mendoza into the planning commission board.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? Welcome, John.
Thank you.
So, we are very fortunate. As you know, we posted for a public works superintendent right out of the gate. That didn't happen. We appreciate that Tom has taken the lead, but they desperately needed help. And so we opened up a position for public work one. We had amazing applicants. We kind of joke that we wish we could have hired every one of them. That's how good they were. And even when we closed, we still had people that were like, is this close? Because they saw it and it's like, no, we didn't get the posting down yet. And so we did hire an employee. We feel very happy to have her on board. And Jennifer Mandich, would you like to stand up and tell our citizens a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mandich. I've been in Grace Harbor for off and on 20 years or so. I've worked for the City of Aberdeen Public Works Director. I was his assistant for a few years. And now I'm doing the dirty work with Tom, and I'm excited to learn all about it and how it all works over here.
And not only that, she comes with the experience from Public Works in Aberdeen, like record keeping, schedules, all of that kind of knowledge and computer skills. But she's got a CDL and she was driving a double pump or a dump truck, pump truck. So she's a well-versed employee in a lot of areas. So welcome, Jennifer. Okay. So moving on, a citizen provided, it's in your packet, Councilman, an ordinance that is used in Hoquiam for keeping bees. And as you all know, bees are very important in our environment. They're really key to keeping, life going and everything else. And so he was hoping to make a motion to create a keeping bee ordinance. He provided the information. What we would do is adopt the ordinance that Hoquiam has. So is there a motion out there to do this?
Back up on item D. Jennifer needs to be confirmed by the council, correct?
No, I was told by our attorney that was not necessary. And Chris is online if you have questions. Okay. Moving on, is there a motion regarding the ordinances for beekeeping?
I make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I've looked at this, for a while. I communicated to the citizen who brought this forward that, that our current practice, as I understand it, is that the planning commission has to approve individual hives. And so I understand the rationale of wanting to make an ordinance so that it doesn't have to go before the planning commission, for individual approval. I did communicate that I felt under-equipped in, knowledge of beekeeping and, general city planning, to make a decision on that. And I'm not opposed to the ordinance per se, but I still feel like I don't have enough information about how an ordinance like this could positively or negatively impact, our city in general. So, I would welcome some more insight or fact finding.
I got a little background on this. The reason the bees became an issue was where they were previously located above Alder Drive. The neighbors were being plagued with bee poop. And there was several citizens up there years ago who I went up and did a little tour of Bee Poop Street, and yeah, it was pretty bad. That's why the bees are in where they're at right now in the Cosmopolis municipal code. Out of the residential, basically.
Thank you for that, Jim.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yes.
Can we ask for input from the city attorney regarding enforcement? That if this is adopted, I don't know that it's complete. It seems to be missing the enforceability portion of the municipal code. So if we could address that, or have the city attorney please address that before we do.
I think that's probably a good idea. Chris, did you hear that?
Can you hear us?
Yeah. I heard part of that. Which ordinance is this? Sorry. You guys were breaking up.
It's on the beekeeping or keeping of bees.
Did I see the beekeeping ordinance, Mayor?
I thought it was sent in your packet.
I thought we were just agreeing to create ordinance, not to adopt this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen a beekeeping ordinance, folks. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, could I make a motion to table?
Mayor, if you sent it, I must have missed it, but
Yeah, we got more information.
Yes.
So there's been a motion to table it and
second.
until we gather more information on it.
That would be more.
yeah, I'm sorry about that, folks.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
When a motion to table is made, it only needs a second, and then it is to be voted on. No discussion, just vote on the tabling of the motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed? Hearing none, so we're tabling the motion. Okay. Okay, moving on to item F. Chief Valley.
Yeah, so this is the Homeland Security Region 3 Omnibus Agreement. That's that mutual aid agreement between the five counties, Grace Harbor, Lewis, Pacific, Mason, and Everson. You guys approved a temporary extension back in February. The agreement expired at the end of last year. The attorneys are still working out the fine details, so we did an extension through the end of June. This is that new 5-year agreement starting July 1st. So, yeah. Not much has changed since the last one. I think Mason County had to make a couple of tweaks, but we did have the attorney review this and we found no issues.
I make a motion that we accept the Regional 3 mutual aid agreement.
A second.
Is there any discussion?
So, Chief, when this does happen and you have to leave our area, who protects us? Who do we rely on when you guys pack up and head somewhere else for who knows how long?
So for the mutual aid agreement, what this does is this is more so for us to bring resources. Being realistic here, we don't have a whole lot that we haven't used. I don't know that the city has exercised this agreement necessarily. There is a 3-day clause in there, providing support 3 days within there. The city and that we would not drain the city to help another area if we do not be above our normal. I can't speak for the other departments since it is city-wide.
Is there a motion to approve this agreement?
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded.
It's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none? Motion approved. Okay, Chief, you want to move on to?
Yes, this next one is with the Washington Department of Natural Resources. And so since there are 4 claims outside the city limits that the city of Cosmopolis Fire Department does cover, we do need an agreement in place because of how the mutual aid works. It's not needed for the day-to-day routine responses, so we do cover the medical zones, the DNRs, on the property outside the city limits. This is more for extended attack and making sure that our city is reimbursed for the costs incurred when we are fighting fires out there and providing services outside of the city. So there's an agreement that was put in place way back when, that said that we will respond to those areas that are DNR or collecting taxes on, we're not collecting taxes on. This is just making sure that if we do have an extended response out there, we are adequately being reimbursed for our expenses incurred if we're not collecting taxes.
I move that the DNR agreement be approved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Motion passed. Okay, number 8, Comprehensive Transportation Improvement Plan, TIP, and our clerk treasurer, Carrie, will be presenting on that tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an annual exercise that's required by the state. Because we're a little late into the game on this, when I talked to the state, their recommendation was to basically use the same plan as what was presented last year. It's a very, it can be a very detailed exercise to go through it. They suggested probably not a lot has changed for Cosmopolis. This is like an inventory of streets and the classification of shape you think these streets are in. The PowerPoint that was included to the councilman, this is the exact same PowerPoint as what was presented last year. No changes made to it with the exception of the dates. The date range is now 2025 to 2030. The state requires that we present a resolution that's been approved to them in order to go further with the TIP. In other words, it's a system that I have to log into, put all the information into it. Their recommendation was that I use last year's report and merely change the dates on it. Having said that, this report did an inventory of roads back in 2022. I would really recommend going forward that we start another detailed report like this for next year, which will be for our 2026 report out. I think 3 years is probably enough time to not do anything and looking at the inventories to see if roads have gotten worse or not. We know they probably haven't gotten better, but to look at that. The reason that this is really important is the TIP information all gets combined and collated by the state into the STIP, and that is the State Transportation Improvement Plan. This is a repository of how they look at areas as far as where they think there's opportunity to have grants. We would still have to apply for grants. Most of the grants that are out there are matching funds, so that makes it a little painful for us. Some of them are not, though. There are some grants out there that are not matching funds. So that's why I think it's really important that, well, first of all, we have to participate in this. But I think for next year, it'll be important to do a more detailed look too, and basically follow what we did, but look at those same roads and rate them again for next year.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
The only discussion I have is that 4 out of the 5 councilmen live on 4th Street. Don't get upset when you see a lot of work being done on 4th Street.
No comment.
Actually, 2 things on this. Alder Drive repair and paving was done last year as well as Mill Creek Drive repair.
Thank you.
And we didn't hold a public hearing on this, like the resolution says we're supposed to have a public hearing at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, again, thank you for that information, giving us grace. We are finding some deadlines that, we walked into interesting situations, and so learning our way through this, I appreciate your understanding.
Schedule.
Okay, and then we are up against deadlines, so, and we've been in communication with them. They've been very understanding of the situation. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none? So moved. Okay, again, Carrie, our clerk treasurer, will be giving a report on water certification.
Thank you, Mayor. All water systems are required by the State Department of Health to have a water distribution manager that is certified. We currently do not have that certification, and it is quite a lengthy process to get certification. We reached out to the city of Aberdeen to see what we could do. They recommended Community West Water Systems. They are a company that comes in and provides a service of either doing the work, seeing what's been done, or actually providing training. We've been in contact with Chris Orkney, who is their owner. He is going to come in and help us monitor. He is, of course, certified, and all the check boxes are met with him. He has also been in contact with us through and with the Department of Health to kind of see where we are on reports and how far behind we are. We're far behind on several of them. The Department of Health is giving us some grace. Their first deadline to us was we had to have somebody certified in-house by July 8th. When they understood our situation, or by July 1st, excuse me. When they understood our situation, they gave us a grace period until July 8th. Right. So in all the communications backward with them, the bottom line is that if we don't have somebody certified overseeing the work that's being done currently by our public works team, we're in violation, and we can be fined up to $5,000 a day per violation. So that could mean for every test that we do, that's a violation because it wasn't done underneath the supervision of somebody that has a certification. So they can come in and provide this oversight for us. They will be doing our reports. We have our consumer confidence report that's due out July 1st. So they will be working on that with us. We also have a use deficiency report that's due to the state immediately. So they're working on that as well. We're providing them information on that. Aberdeen's also been very helpful for us with that. So basically, Mayor, just wanted to bring this to your attention of what's happening and what we're doing. We have entered into an agreement. It's a very short-term agreement until we can really get our feet under us to figure out what are our next steps. We realize we need to have somebody certified. That's going to probably be a 3-year process. And that person that's being trained has to be trained under somebody that's certified. So this could be a long-term proposition for the city of having to have somebody that we hire looking over the certifications with us. I think having this company come in right now gives us some breathing room to go shopping to make sure we're really getting the best bang for our buck here. And that's what we will be doing. In the meantime, they will be coming in and starting almost immediately.
Yeah. And so we did put on their motion to approve. My understanding, talking with Chris and everything, that we needed to move on this. And so we did do that. We are in an agreement with them. This is in place. We don't have a choice. When she said they're behind on reports, we are behind on reports several months. And so it's just to get things in place and not paying huge fines. And so we will be looking at every aspect of this. We'll be talking to our public work crew. And the person coming in will be working very closely with public. is there. If you have any questions, I do want you to know, we have moved forward with this agreement. But if you have any questions that we can answer for you at this time, or you're welcome to come in. I know we've had some individual discussions about the situation and the urgency and that we're in with this. So if you want to discuss it now or come into the office, please do so.
Question. Just looking long term, is this certification something that we have in the current job description for the public works supervisor that we're hoping to hire?
We did have that in that
And
job.
is that position, has that been pulled for now, or?
We had it posted for a month.
Are we going to continue?
At this time, we cannot afford 3 public work people and hire a supervisor at that time. It's actually cheaper to go this route than, and as I said, our public works, they needed help. And so we needed to get the position filled. And as I said, with Chris, I was able to hire her. If you feel you want to confirm her tonight, she is hired. I'm happy to do that. I feel we're very fortunate to have that position filled. All of our positions are filled, and that our public works have the help that they need. I've seen them out working. They're hard workers, all of them. They've been out there, heads down and bottoms up. So.
What was the cost of the contract?
The contract is broken up into 2 3-month sections. The first is merely doing the work. They're not going to be providing any real training with that, and that's $1,900 a month, so much cheaper than an employee. If we decide that we want training provided and begin that path, then it's $2,500 a month, still considerably cheaper than hiring an employee.
So at those figures, that strikes me as considerably cheaper than hiring an employee, but it's very expensive to have someone that only provides that one service.
Correct, that's correct.
And so that service, that person will be coming in every day, going through all of the water testing, writing reports. There's a lot of reporting things that we don't have a choice. You're right. Every time we have to spend money, I flinch. And so we don't have a choice. We are out of compliance. We are seriously out of compliance. We have one report, how late is it?
4 years.
So we are out of compliance. It has to be taken care of.
Can you tell, where will the funds come to pay this? From sewer and water, or just water? Or
it will be water.
Water.
And do you have a rough idea of how many, I know we're contracting them for, several months period,
Short term,
but
correct.
do you have a sense of how many hours of labor they're going to be doing under that contract?
I don't right now, to be honest with you. I mean, I know he is diligently working to get our reports out by the deadline of July 1st. So he's putting in some serious time right now. We're providing him the information that we can. He's also working with the Department of Health on our behalf, really kind of advocating for us and letting them know they are moving forward. I will be overseeing them, at least in the short run. I think what this really short-term contract, and again, it's month to month, really. In theory, we've asked for this, but we can say this isn't working for us. We're going to go a different direction. This just buys us some time to be able to shop, to make some decisions and find out what other options are.
And we are really.
I appreciate that. And just to clarify, the nature of that question is, there's a big difference between when you're having somebody come down and adjudicate a hearing for $1,200 for a couple of hours and paying that kind of money versus somebody's coming in and spending 100 hours to do that work.
Right.
We understand that. I will let you know, we are really on the Department of Health radar. We've been inundated with phone calls, probably from 3 or 4 officials. So Chris is working with all of them. We were fortunate that Aberdeen stepped in. They brought a couple of their water people that with certification that Phil several times helping us, working. We have seasoned workers. The problem is we don't have the certification. And so, you know, we're fortunate that we had that time, but they're like, when it came on Department of Health radar, they said, that's not working. You better get someone in place. And they have given us a small grace window. So as I said, we're working through this. So, any other questions? As I said, no surprises every day. So come in, say hello. If you have questions. We're going to move on now to council comment. Thank you, Justin. So council comments at this time.
At this time, I have nothing.
I have two comments. One is just kind of a continuance. We had some discussions at prior meetings about changing the format of our city council agendas. I do still hope to propose some changes, probably for the next meeting. But we did have some good discussion about those changes. And in the meantime, I just want to remind folks that, you know, if you have questions, you're welcome to email us. You're also welcome to just approach us after the meeting. We do have to disperse because we can't continue to remain in quorum, having too many city officials in proximity. But, you know, most of us are happy to hang around and chat with you and answer your questions in the meantime. The second thing I wanted to do is just quickly address some announcements that I made at the previous city council meeting about some listening sessions. Those listening sessions haven't happened yet. They're being postponed. In consultation with our city attorney, I realized there were a couple of things that we needed to sort out. The chief among those is just that if, so the purpose of those sessions is really to collect your insights and what you would like to see for the future of Cosmopolis. And relates to the kind of work that citizens are already doing in terms of, you know, working in our parks and just really trying to make this city the best place it can be. But I realized that if I collect that information, it does become a public record. So it's subject to public records requests. I spoke with several citizens who were concerned. They did not want to participate. They didn't want to be listened to if they couldn't do that anonymously. So I'm seeking the support of some citizens who would be able to facilitate collecting that information and anonymizing it before they hand it over to the city. So that way everybody can have a voice and know that, you know, we're both doing the work of assuring that the people who are providing input into those sessions are actual residents of Cosmopolis, but also that they're, you know, the insights they're sharing are protected by anonymity. The other concern that was raised was I made some comments about doing those as a private citizen. It seemed like some folks may have taken that out of context to mean that I didn't have the support of the city council or I was going behind their back to do so. And I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that was not the case. I've spoken individually with all the city councilors about this. They've been supportive, the mayor's been supportive. And so I just also wanted to kind of distance this. This isn't city council work. It's not part of my role as a city councilor. So just wanted to make sure that those things were clear before we move forward with that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion, Mr. Dean?
Yeah, I've got one. I just wanted to let everybody know this is my last council meeting. I'm resigning. I'm done. There's been a lot of things that led up to this. The biggest one, Mayor, was the Public Works employee. I'm the Public Works chairman. You couldn't ask me to sit in on an interview.
You know,
Don't answer that.
You're
But
right.
you did not reach out to ask your Public Works guy to sit in on a Public Works interview. I received zero communication. You know, the citizens need to know transparency. It doesn't exist. All this shit I brought up tonight, how much of it did you really hear? Any of it? It's appalling to me. It's absolutely appalling. And I told you months ago, when it comes to hiring, you can include us or you can continue to run the city your way. You choose to keep running it your way, and I'm done. I'm not gonna be here when shit hits the fan. I'm done. sorry to leave unexpectedly. I stayed around for a few reasons. Number one, to educate a council and a mayor. I've been doing this for years, not great at it, I'll admit that. But it don't matter. So that's it, I'm done.
Thank you for your comments and your service. Okay, it's time for public comments. Please state your name and your address. I think you had your hands up first.
Chairman Turner, Gulf First Street, Cosmopolis. We had a meeting the other day, that was Public Works, and we were told not to get information about, so discuss with the council. Now, is the money that's being spent, that's saved from the landscape is being used, to pay for the water certification guy, or is it being coming out of water? Because we were told it was going to be taken out of the landscaper money. Which one is it?
It's going to be going into the general fund, and it will help go toward.
You told us it was going to be coming out of there. That's going to be paid out of that. Landscaper money.
I'm not sure I'm understanding you.
The landscaper money that was saved from not having a landscaper was going to be, you're going to use that to pay for water certification so they can run all reports.
I did say that, and then when we sat and we looked at that, I realized I cannot do that. And it has to go back into the general fund. Thank you for your
Okay, I got
comment.
one more too. Is the public works going to be compensated for the escape that was given to the fire department?
That car is not designated to public
That
works.
was car was bought with public works money.
We are looking at that. We are looking at that, and so we are researching that. And we'll get back to you on that. Thank you for your comments.
Jason Turner, 825 2nd Street. A couple things. The application for the parks to rent out or kind of reserve the area, the covered area. I think that's a great idea. I just have a couple of concerns with that. Number one, you put down a deposit, and a deposit insinuates that you're getting the money back. So if parties, majority of them, happen on the weekends, and it's outside of the time that the public works guys are working, who's going down to check to make sure all of that is cleaned up so that they can confirm that it is done and those money can be given back? I walk down there, I walk a lot down that trail. I live right there on 2nd Street. There was a party down there the other day. There were millions left all over the place that I picked up along the way. And I just worry that if people are paying, that they kind of consider it a, well, you know, we're paying for it, so we'll leave whatever we want, which might make it be a bigger problem than what it should be. So something to think about. If the guys are gonna be called out after hours to go down there and check to make sure everything's done, because the people are gonna want their money back and they're not gonna wanna have to wait days. The park, Mill Creek Park, you said we're gonna resurface the tennis courts.
Yeah.
No tennis courts, pickleball. People pay lots of money to do pickleball tournaments, and we could use that for pickleball.
I agree 100%. Just so on the grant,
People do pickleball.
I appreciate your comment. I said the same thing. It's a preservation grant. We have to take it back to what it was. So we're not going to do all tennis courts. We're going to do partial tennis courts. We stay in compliance with that grant. And then we find some money when that project gets finished this year. They get pickleball courts stated. Thank you for your comments.
No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
So the certification, water certification, it's a lengthy process. You said 3 years it could be. We're bringing in somebody at $1,900 a month. Well, $1,900, I think you said, 2-3 month periods, $1,900 a month. So 6 months at $1,900 a month, and then if we want training, $2,500 a month. It sounds like there's a lot that people have to do, right? Reports and all of that kind of stuff that has to be kept in line and out managed, and a lot of data collection. If one of the guys gets that certification, are they going to be compensated monthly for the extra work that they will be doing? So would they be getting a raise for that if they choose to do it?
So we've had this discussion, what we're looking at. We're doing a rate study, a salary study for all employees. One of the things that we realized coming into this, that there really wasn't salary studies, rate studies, that type of thing. So we're looking at that. If we have a public work individual that chooses to do this study, and it will be during his work time, and so he wouldn't be compensated for that time. And then if it's after hours, he would be compensated for any other hour. So what that would do also, we would look at, well, that would bring that person up to the next level.
Because that's a lot more duties on top of what they're already doing. And they already know that they're taxed. And then I would just like to close with a quote from Cosmopolis. Two keywords in here I'd like to say, and I'll point them out. There's a difference between being a leader and being a boss. Both are based on authority. A boss demands blind obedience. A leader, here's the first word, earns his authority through understanding, and the second word, you have to remember that when we're thinking about the leaders of our community.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anything else this evening? State your name.
Candace Walker, 305 G Street. If you continue with the monetary charge for the parks, and you need somebody to go down to the parks to look it over and see that everything's being done right, and a group of little kids come in from the neighborhood and they want to play on these teeter-totters that are supposedly have reserved on them, I want to be the first elected to go down and tell those little kids and their parents that they can't do that, even though they're a taxpayer.
Thank you for your comment. Again, it would just be a fee for using the covered area.
They're public parks, for God's sakes. If you need somebody to help you,
Thank you.
get your volunteers to do.
Thank you for your comments.
Are you getting cut off? It's kind of rude, then I have to say, but Little Turner, 825 and a half Second Street. If you guys look in the back, in the file cabinet, there is a park file back there that you people call and make a reservation. You only reserve the covered area. The rest of the park is open to the public, no matter what. Yeah. And it has always been that way. There's been, that's no different. All you're doing is charging $50 and then giving it back to them. There's no guarantee. And you know, they might just say, hey, it's worth not having to clean up, so we'll just leave it for somebody else to do. So it's not any different than what you've already been doing. To be honest with you, it's the same thing. And Jim, I wish the hell you would leave. Oh, God, yes.
Because what has happened here is everybody, all of the new council members they haven't taken anything from you. They've just gone willy-nilly and done their own thing, Justin maybe. But they could learn from you if there was some respect from the leadership towards you. Maybe the rest of the council would respect you too and want to listen to you and come to you for the advice. That you have a whole lot more experience than any of them do. And I see things happening that shouldn't be happening. So, because there is no experience, I'm sorry you're leaving.
Thank you for your comments. So we are going to close the. Is there any more comments before we close? Please.
Michelle Fogus, 131 Alder. I wanted to welcome the new staff. I'm super happy that you're on board and our new volunteers. I've had the opportunity to talk to Carrie a couple times. I'm really impressed with your commitment to transparency, to cleaning up years of prior mistakes, and I'm really excited to see us move forward.
Are we still talking about the?
Thank you. All right. Any other comments, or we're going to adjourn? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Well, I'll print them out and get them to you.
Print them out. That's the city's.
Thank you.
Good luck, fellas. Good luck.
Hey, Debbie, how are you?
I'm glad you're on board. That one, then I started thinking after.
How long have you been on the I started 2 years ago.
We don't raise our hands and try to make some sort of motion with you. Don't sound like we're asking.
I wanted to make sure I got it right.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm Janelle. I'm married.